All right, we are busy, busy back. I love that we still do not have HR. Yes, 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 yes. Love it, love it. Here for it. Want some more of it.
We have HR and a union.
Don't.
We do.
Thank you,
Mm,
Leia. Say it again, because
mm,
he's just hard of hearing.
no.
Like these things are literally like they're literally Jim's role.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Hey,
Mm, okay.
you know what? We don't need his approval for the things that we get done in our meetings, so
What?
it's
Don't
it's fine.
you? Don't you?
No,
Oh, okay.
the government's on our side.
Oh. Oh, well.
Yeah, there are laws placed to protect us.
Woo! Just wait till next month, babe. Just wait till next month. Let me stop.
I don't deal with the government, so I'm not waiting. I just know that what I say is right.
Oh,
You know,
oh, okay. Well, hey, delusion. We love it. We love it. Love us some.
Mark, you don't flip flop. Don't
I'm
flip
not
flop.
trying to flip flop. Like, it was funny, but I was like, oh, wait, well, wait a minute. That's not.
Okay. Tell them again.
Like, I'm definitely here for the HR and the union. Like, no one can stop that. But, like, why did you bring our government into it?
Because that's what's supporting the union.
This is a liar.
State level, right?
That can be just as bad.
Why are you putting the episode on?
I'm not putting the episode on.
Oh, I was just like, what the hell?
Do y'all see how, like, after she turned back human, she lost the lipstick?
Oh,
Oh my God, I didn't even notice that. I didn't even
Mhm.
recognize it. She sure did.
maybe the lips were like supposed to represent the bloodlust.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and she lost some of her curls too. Granted, she just got up off the ground, but like the whole evil bounce was fresh curls were there, and now it's kind of back to normal.
And
Not
she'll
them
never
telling
be
us
able
that
to
when
whip
you,
Phoebe's ass again.
Mhm.
not them letting us know that when you turn evil, you get even more beautiful.
Evil
That's
is
what they
kind
were
of
saying.
seductive.
Child,
Because some of these good witches was hit.
Marcy or whatever her name was, that wasn't
Child.
even a full witch or whatever she had going on. She looked fickle and a fool.
These good witches and good people were in distress.
Oh my God, I
That
know.
little girl with the fairy.
No, do you know who always looked fried and frizzled to me? Was Allison. What's his name's fiance from season one in
Oh,
Bed from Hell? Oh my God. She always looked dry and crusty to me. Always.
She was going through something,
a
so
lot.
My God. I
She
don't
was
ever want to go through.
dehydrated
I
for
don't ever
sure.
want to go through it. I don't ever want to go through that. If I end up looking like that, put me down.
Oh,
Like
oh my
Same.
god.
Listen,
Galen.
even after the death of my father, there were some times I looked fairly raggedy, but I never looked that dry.
Yeah.
she j- she looked her hair looked like hay. I was like, oh my God, she is gonna leave pieces of
Oh
her
my
hair on the
God.
manor floor because her hair is crunchy.
Okay, it's just breaking off.
Oh God, okay. Don't even get me started on that lady because she looked a mess.
You got yourself
Listen, they
started.
needed a witch's queer eye just to help her, give her that little boost.
She was over
Give
there
you a
surviving on dark lighter juice, and she didn't know anything else.
oh juice. Okay.
I'm
We're
Lord. Let's. What
going
is
to
Choco
hell.
Reality Bites? What is this?
Well,
What
no,
is this
I
today?
thought you were gonna say another J word. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's not. Mm-mm.
You don't even know what I was gonna say. Shut up.
And then
Last
that's why
night.
I'm saying
Her
that's
name
not
Mark.
it.
Hush. Mark.
You ready? What?
Oh,
Markel, what's your deal today? What's going on? Why do you hate me?
I don't hate you.
The
I
question
don't
it's the
know.
blood moon. It's the
be,
blood moon. That's all. That's all. It's the blood moon.
but the question should be, why do you hate him?
I
Right?
don't. I don't. I'm just calling him out.
Because I feel like he's been pretty targeted.
Oh, girl.
It's one of those words that ends with isms. That's what it's giving.
Okay.
Very much.
Anyway.
Calling Galen autistic.
No, no, baby, no, baby. Oh my lord.
Oh,
What's the
oh,
word then? Because that's the only one I know.
No, not autism, just racism.
Uh-uh. Oh
Mark, what? Entertain us.
my God today. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we are back so that we can do
Oh,
okay. Bye, Daisy. Let's see. I really hope she wasn't offended by that. We are here to talk about okay, let me start over because okay. Okay. Mm. So we're here to talk about Bite Me. And this episode comes right hot off the tails of Cole um manipulating Phoebe essentially into moving out of the manor. So she is now living with him in this space that she somehow he got from his workplace, and it's a mess. But either way, child, either way. This episode is very interesting because we get introduced to some vampires. So we're watching Cole try to bring the evil magical community together. So all these different demonic factions and creatures and whatever else. We got some Grimlocks, we got some Harpies. He's trying to bring them together in an effort to, you know, consolidate his power. Now speaking of harpies, we saw a harpy attack earlier in the episode, and Paige had to go get Phoebe so that they could use the power of three on it. So I know that it's a very short scene, but that scene was really important in establishing that Phoebe feels awkward not living in the manor. She kind of doesn't know how to talk to them. Um and you can tell that she sort of is just like disconnecting a little bit and just like, okay, I'm gonna go because I don't know what else to say. We also learned that Cole has a no orbing rule, that he doesn't want Paige or I'm assuming Leo just orbing in whenever. So how do we kind of feel about that scene and getting the feel of where their lives are now that she's moved out? Does anyone have any specific thoughts that you maybe wanted to share on that? Or something that you've been thinking like, oh, this will be juicy to discuss. Crystal has her hand up.
I was gonna say, I think that Phoebe probably feels a little guilty, and probably she's obviously been kind of standoffish because they're trying to invite her to dinner and stuff, or Piper's trying to invite her to dinner, and she's just like, no, I got something else to do. You could tell she's not really been around like that except for, when they have to fight demons or something. So I
Yeah.
think she just feels guilty.
Yes. Yes. And especially because we kind of see that now Paige and Piper are just there and they're interacting as sisters, but it feels very much like our roommate that just moved in
Mm.
and now Phoebe has left them. Um so yeah, no, I absolutely get that kind of guilty feeling that she could be getting from all of this, and you can tell from the look on her face she's disconnecting because that's what she does when things get rough and tough. So absolutely, absolutely. It was worrisome to me that she didn't even want to or let Paige orb her home because Cole might get mad. That was what kind of bothered me. Um because I felt like, what do you mean? He doesn't what do you mean he doesn't want you orbiting in unless it's an emergency. She can't even take you back to the house. You have to walk back home or catch a cab or whatever the case may be, because I'm assuming she caught a cab. But then it's like she didn't even have a purse, so what money, you know? Um, I don't know. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. This episode, like I said, has quite a bit going on. This we see Paige's suspicions reigniting again, kind of going even further that Cole may be evil and that he is not being truthful about who he is. And again, we see Piper shutting it down and saying, girl, you're gonna have to let that go because it's not true. So, how are we kind of feeling about Piper and this approach that she's taking in pretending like everything is just hunky dory? And I'm so glad Kathy Hilton isn't here. Diamond has her hand up.
I think it's kind of like indicative of something of Piper's desire, her constant and very annoying at this point desire to have a normal life, where like they keep pushing off the idea that like it's possible that Cole is evil again, or that he's a demon again, or that he's working with evil. And it kind of feels like it doesn't make a lot of sense because as much as well as she knows Phoebe, she also knows Cole pretty well because they've been around Cole for a number of years, for a couple of years now. And she's also been a part of seeing Cole through some really transformative moments in Cole's life.
Mm,
So it's not like she's not aware of who Cole is and how he behaves. And not to say that he hasn't, tried to put distance between the sisters before, but not in a and not to this degree, where he's completely tried to wrench Phoebe away from her sisters, where he's more been like, I don't want you butting in on me and Phoebe's relationship, whereas that
yeah.
was his stance before is y'all stay out, I'm fine with y'all being close, I'm fine being around y'all, but y'all need to stay out of our relationship. And that's just not how Phoebe and her sisters work. So that obviously was never going to work anyways. But then now we're at a place where he doesn't even want them to be close to each other. And Piper should find that more suspicious than she does. I
Yeah.
mean, everything that Cole has been doing since the source powers, since he gained the source powers
Mhm.
has been suspicious on his part. And I think for Phoebe, it may be harder because she's closer to Cole and she's still getting to see the side of him that only she gets to see.
Mhm.
But oh God, I still have it. I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. But like so Phoebe's only looking at that. Phoebe's not even recognizing her own changes, whereas Piper and Paige is, especially obviously Paige is picking up on it, but Piper should also be able to see and recognize that something like the fact that something is happening with both of them and they're both acting so weird should be a bigger red flag to her that
Yeah.
something is going on. And so I do think it's kind of frustrating how long it takes Piper to whether she finally realizes or whether she's known the whole time and she's just finally willing to admit it, because I do think that she obviously didn't know because there's no way she would let Phoebe be with him. And like she would have been working with Paige behind the scenes to separate Cole and Phoebe from each other earlier on. I kind of feel like she really was in denial, just straight out in denial that anything because we love to say it and it was, more prevalent during season 1, but these girls don't believe in magic. These women do not believe in magic. And so of course the fact that she kept saying we both know that's impossible, he's not a demon anymore, it's like Piper, like even if he's not a demon he could still be working with evil.
Yes.
So it's just weird that she's so resistant to it, and I think it's that I want a normal life stuff that she's always
Hmm.
doing, where she's like, I don't want to believe that my brother-in-law, the man that my sister just married, is a whole demon or even just working with demons. So yeah, that sort of like her constantly shutting Paige down was really annoying.
Yeah, I feel the absolute same. And it puts me in mind of like, and what's so weird is it specifically Piper, because like you said, none of them, they all have this strange kind of like disconnect from magic to where they think that it just can't be magic, when it clearly is or could be rather. Um, I think back to season 1 when Prue had the scratch marks and then they were gone and she's like, Piper, it happened. And she was like, I think you just been working too much. Or you haven't been getting enough sleep. And I was like, Piper, y'all are witches now, babe. You know this kind of stuff can happen. And then even in like season 3, when they're talking about the fairies and trolls, and Piper's like, maybe next we should tell her about Santa Claus. And it's like, y'all are witches. Why are we pretending like these things are so far-fetched? Y'all are not normal people anymore. You don't see the normalness in the world. You have seen the worst of the worst. And so Piper is just continuing on this trend of wanting to, like you said, like pretend that everything is normal and put things to the side. And I kind of think that that's why things sneak up on them a little bit, is because they put them to the side. And it's very frustrating to watch. Very. Crystal has her hand up.
Yeah, I think another part of it too for Piper is she doesn't want to upset Phoebe. I noticed this thing where they don't want her to be upset with them or
Yes.
like feel like, they're against her in some way. And it's like, it is frustrating because it's like all the signs are there, but
Yeah.
she's like, I don't want her to be mad with me if I side with Paige on this Cole's evil thing. So,
Yeah. Especially because I think it could put them in this predicament of like, it's I don't think that Piper thinks this consciously, but I almost wonder if Piper subconsciously is like, it's supposed to be me and Phoebe versus Paige. Not necessarily versus Paige, but like, I'm supposed to be on Phoebe's side because she's my sister. Because
yeah.
we see, oh, not my, well, I mean, Paige is her sister too, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, they
Um,
grew up together and stuff.
they
Yeah.
grew up together because, like, even at the end of the fifth Halley Wheel, after Paige's ordeal, Phoebe got upset and she walked off, and Piper got up and walked behind her, like,
Mm-hmm.
and she kind of looked at Paige like, I gotta go check on this girl, like, and they feel like such a package deal that I think she just is like, I can't agree with Paige on this because it would be different if it was Prue because their dynamics are so different. I
Yeah.
don't think that it would be different, kind of like in execution. I still think she probably will be questioning Prue, whatever else, but the nitty gritty of it would be different. It
Mm,
would be like that, we can't do this because we'll lose her and you don't know her like I do and whatever else. It wouldn't be that same feeling.
exactly. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I think that one of the things that's so hard to watch about this is knowing how much Piper and Phoebe have always had each other's backs and just kind of seeing how they are now sort of falling apart because of Cole. Now, speaking of Cole, in this episode, we actually see that the vampire queen, who the vampires were exiled, are trying to get back into the new source's good graces. And they set up a meeting to go talk to Cole, and he is not having it at all. He immediately is like, no thanks, not doing that. And that's actually how Paige is introduced to this man who would later go on to bite her and turn her into a vampire. So Paige puts the pieces together that something is weird about the fact that that's where she met this person. So, talking about the vampires, let's get into them a little bit because I thought that they were just delicious as a group, as a unit. I thought that they were just delightfully delicious. They were most of them were beautiful. I mean, they just looked expensive and they looked really good and they looked really deliciously evil. And the queen, baby, the queen was fine. So what were your thoughts when we saw the vampires? Would you like to have seen more of them? Were you kind of curious about how they were? Um, does anyone have any thoughts on them? Because I was obsessed. I'll be 100% honest with you. I can't think of another word to use. I was obsessed with the Vampire Queen. I was obsessed with Vampire Paige. Like they just looked, my God. My God. So does anyone have any thoughts on them as antagonists or just in general? Okay. Well, the vampire, like I said, they were a huge part of this episode. And they came up with a plan to turn Paige into a vampire so that they could have a charm on their side. Now, one thing I was kind of curious about was if vampires that had previously been witches have access to magic, to witch magic, because I was like, would she still be that powerful? So I was just curious if anyone had any thoughts about that, about Paige as a vampire still having access to her charmed power. Do y'all think she still would, or do you think that maybe she just be a vampire, a very powerful vampire, but just a vampire?
Well, I mean, oh, sorry, Mark got his hand went up. And
Sorry. I was
I
gonna say,
started talking, so
do you still want to go? Because I'm
no, I can wait till after you're done.
I was gonna just say, I don't know because the show just plays so fast and loose with it. I remember when Piper was a Wendigo, she could still freeze time.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to think if there are any other times. Well, no, I guess when Phoebe was possessed by the Woogie, she still had premonitions and everything. So I guess, yeah, they would still have access to their original witch powers, but I don't. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess they would still have their magic, or maybe it would just be a twisted form of their magic, like when they became warlocks or something. So,
Ooh. Hmm.
you
I like
know,
that notion. I like that notion.
that's all.
Diamond, you can go ahead.
There's no real indication that the power of three is only something that the charm ones can, or that witches can tap into. It's just that the charm ones, are only ones that can tap into it. So there is thought process that if they were to be vampires, there would be essentially an equivalent type of magic that the three of them could tap into as extremely powerful vampires, right? So maybe not their witch powers necessarily, because it's like similar to when they're warlocks, which is obviously warlocks and witches are more similar to each other and use this more similar magic system. So therefore, obviously that makes more sense. But like when they turn into warlocks, they still have access to the power of three. So I think it would just be like the vampire power of three. We won't know what that would look like exactly because there's never been a vampire power of three. But I do feel like they would be extremely powerful in some way, as the three of them are of the same magical being together connected. They'll be extremely powerful together,
Yeah.
no matter what type of magical being that might be. So I think that's what it is because since Paige is a vampire, or not quite a vampire yet, but is kind of a vampire, and the other two are witches, they don't have access because they're not all three of the same magical being, so to speak. So that's
Hmm.
kind of how I understood it to be, because they do have access to it, like those demons. I mean, that's several seasons from now, but those three demons that were pretending to be them had access to, were able to gain access to the power of three, and they were demons. They weren't even warlocks. So I do think that there's something to be said that there is some access to the power of three that those three people can, those three, women, those three sisters can access no matter what type of magical being they are.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because I was curious about that. How that particular process will work, but that makes a lot of sense. That the magic is them versus because we've had some discussion before about like what exactly the power three is. And so it would make sense that no matter what entities they are, they would have some version of a power of three, even if it wasn't in its kind of original form that we're used to seeing. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. um so once the vampires attack, they turn, Paige into a vampire and whatnot. Cole comes to the house. And he is immediately upset. And we are continuing to see this we're continuing to see this protectiveness from him that I think is being presented as protectiveness when really and truly it comes off as possessiveness. And I think this is also the first time that we see Piper kind of side eye him fully. Because as soon as he walks into the house, as soon as he walks into the crib, Piper is like, I don't know about this. And then it is interesting that Phoebe constantly feels like she has to check in with Cole. It's very concerning actually. So his portion of the episode is weird, but then he also kind of tells them about vampires. He learns something about the vampires that vanquishing the queen vanquishes them all. But I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about something that we kind of touched on in the rewatch, where earlier when they were at the hospital, Piper and Phoebe and Leo all decided that it couldn't have possibly been vampires because there's no way. There's just no way. That's not how vampires attack. And even if it was, vampires have been banished. And so they wouldn't do this. And so it's just over, and we just move on. But then they come and apparently there's information in the book that says that says something that leads them to think Cole might be right. So I was just wondering how we kind of felt about that turnaround. Did you have any thoughts on how quickly they were to dismiss the fact that it was a vampire, and then just how quickly they turned back and was like, no, it is vampires? Leia has her hand up, and then Mark.
I wasn't the hugest fan of it because I feel like, with a situation like this, conversation is important, but they were really quick to just kind of shut it down instead of actually talk about the possibilities, especially because none of them have ever dealt with vampires firsthand. So this is something that they should want to fully talk about, especially Leo, given he's a white lighter. But for some reason, that just didn't happen. But let Cole come in here and say two words, and oh, it's the vampires. It's definitely them. It's irritating.
Well, you said something that I absolutely like. Leo's been going to the elders for everything these past couple of episodes. Everything. Girl, if somebody wakes up and they run out of instant coffee, he is running up there to the elders to go ask a question. So you would think that he would be like, I don't think that that's how vampires attack, but let me go check with the elders to see. And it's so weird that he just automatically was like, nah. Mark has his hand up.
Yeah, I hate it. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like they look at Paige like, we have more experience, we know what we're talking about, so that can't be it. But it's just like, well, no, because you're just guessing at this point. Why aren't you actually looking? And it's just sometimes they overthink things, and it's just like it's kind of a simple answer. It's kind of like when Leo was like, "Don't guess. You need to be sure which demon you're going after," and they were kind of jumping down his throat, and they were wrong. And it's just another thing. It's just Paige has been doing the work. We know she's dedicating herself to the craft. This isn't even like season 5 or season 6 where that can no longer be said that they know they've been at it longer than she has. But I mean, she shows up every time. Like she's been hitting heavy, since she first started. So it's like it doesn't make sense for y'all to like dismiss her saying, "Oh, bats equal vampires," because I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't they equal vampires?
Yeah. Especially because she's in this new magical world. I think that's the thing that I like the most about Paige is that now that she knows magic exists, she's much more open to this could be magic. And
Mm.
you would think that that's something that her sisters would, already be doing, but it's like they hear something and it's like, oh my God, this person fell off of a building and then they somehow levitated themselves down to the ground and they're like, she must have just been practicing. It couldn't have been anything else, And
And
it's
oops, sorry, I was gonna say I know it's because the sisters think it's they don't want to assume everything around them is magical. They still want to hold on to that normal aspect of their lives. But it's kind of like at this point in the game, it's safe to assume something's magical,
Yeah,
something's demonic.
yeah. No, absolutely. I would almost assume everything was magical before I would assume nothing. Like,
Right.
if the milkman was 2 minutes late, I would be assuming a demon got him. I mean, that's just how paranoid I'd probably be
Yeah.
in the world. And it's like watching them kind of go through these thought processes of no, it can't be this, it can't be this is very interesting, especially when you think about the fact that like Piper was like, you got attacked by bats outside of my club. I don't know why that was so worded weirdly to me, but there was just something about it that was so funny.
That was the businesswoman in her. She
Piper
was just
was,
like, bats.
Piper was like, we're not
By the
telling
club?
about
Am I
this.
about to get reported? No. I just got attacked by
Right,
some
thing.
random bats. Yeah.
She said, but you know, I do wish they had gone. This is very random, and this is not something important, but I just wish they had maybe talked a little bit more about like who found Paige and why, how did she get to the hospital? You know, they're right inside. You're telling me like, did they not hear the ambulance? Did Piper hear an ambulance outside and was like, girl, that ain't got nothing to do with me?
I thought they had already left. Maybe,
That's
maybe it was like a manager at P3 and they called Piper and be like, hey, I think your other sister
Mhm.
is needs to go to the hospital. She just got attacked by something.
Yeah, that's what I was just curious to know how that worked because it was kind of given that Piper like when they came in and Paige was already in the bed, I assumed that they had just gotten there. But maybe they had already been there and they were just waiting to be able to go back. That might be what the more logical conclusion is. They were just waiting to go back, but I always took it as like, oh, we just found out this lady's in the hospital. Meanwhile, I digress. I digress. Um, like we said, the vampire's plan is to turn Paige. The queen then says that her plan is actually to get Paige to turn the other sister, so now they'll have the power of three on their side. Which, listen, good plan and all. Okay. But girl, let's be for real here. Let's be serious with ourselves. Now, there is another player in this, and I don't remember that man's name to save my life, but he is a demon who is kind of pushing back on Cole a little bit. And he's kind of testing the limits of Cole's authority. And he's now come to the Vampire Queen to ask for her to, form an alliance so that way they can take on the sword. Keats, that's it. That's such a stupid name, Keats, um to take out, and they can pull their power and go against the source. So eventually what happens is Keats goes to warn a vampire that you know the source is coming, and Cole comes in, he vanquishes the vampire, and then he tortures Keats into telling him where the vampire queen is. Baby, I'll give Cole this if I can't give him anything else, and I'm not gonna give him anything else. That man is using this magic. Baby, listen, ever since Cole became the source, he has been using this magic up. He has been vanquishing. He's been teleporting. He has been rolling them eyes to the back of his head. He has been doing a little bit shape shifting. Cole said, I am going to use every ounce of magic at my disposal. And for that, I have to say thank you. Because I think sometimes this show gets kind of afraid to use magic, and I'm not quite sure why. But baby, not with him. Not with him. He is showing up. So let's talk a little bit about one of the bigger scenes of this episode. Piper and Phoebe are going off to go find Paige. Now, this is after Phoebe has had to remind Cole, listen, I'm still a witch, okay? And I am going to do what I need to do to make sure that my innocents are safe, that my sister is safe, and there's nothing you can do to stop this. Very interesting discussion. Because Cole, when he was human, was basically telling her, "We'll never be normal because you're a witch who saves the world." And now all of a sudden he's like, "Girl, you need to stay at the house because what is you out there fighting these demons for?" So in the scene in the cemetery, we see Paige come in after Piper and Phoebe have a heart to heart about Phoebe being relieved that she wasn't pregnant, and Piper is upset that she wasn't pregnant because we heard Piper talking to Paige earlier in the episode and just telling her that she thought that she was possibly pregnant because her period was late. So Paige comes in, she attacks, we fight him off, and then we go ahead, we head on out. So, what did y'all think of that scene? Do you love that scene, or do you feel for that scene, or do you feel nothing for it? I'm just curious because I think that that was such an in-depth one, and I think again it goes back to sort of this um thing that they have going on where Paige almost feels like the other sometimes, and I think that this scene was very representative of that because Piper has been foaming at the mouth to talk to Phoebe. Like it's almost as if she's not going to be satisfied until she talks to her even though she's talked to Paige. So I was just curious to know, like, did you feel anything like that, or did you feel like it was just, oh well, Paige is evil? Because I think on the surface that's what it was, but I think kind of on a deeper level, it was very indicative of how Paige is separate from them. Crystal has her hand up.
I agree. I think that it showed Piper and Phoebe's connection
Mhm.
and then showed Paige as kind of the outsider. She was sitting on that gravestone talking about, oh, and then the way she jumped off that. I don't know why that's so funny to me. I just think it's funny when she jumps down like that. But yeah, I really did like that scene. I thought that was a good scene to show kind of their dynamics at that time.
Mm-hmm. It was a beautiful bonding moment, absolutely, like between those two. And then it's so weird that Paige is making these allusions to, oh, it's time for us to do some real sister bonding, and we shared the same blood, Piper. I sniffed you out, things like that. It's it's weird because like on the surface it all makes perfect sense. I don't think it's out of place necessarily, but it just feels like Paige is always in a predicament where she's having to kind of like remind them that we're related, or she feels like she does. Maybe she doesn't have to, but she feels like she has to remind them that they're related. So it just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like that scene is, I mean, because it like she was eating them up. She was tearing them from the rooter to the tutor. But I don't know. It always has that kind of feel to me. Leia has her hand up.
It definitely goes back to what I've said previously, like in some different panels, is that there's always a duo and a trio. It's so clear with them. So clear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I feel like within any group, you're always going to have people who vibe better together. You're always going to have people who have more in common, they have more whatever. But with them, I think it's so jarring because Paige is new, and so she always feels like she's on the outside trying to catch up, but she'll never be able to because they grew up together. They have this shared experience of losing Prue, and it just, it's moments like this where I don't know. It's almost like I feel sad for her, which I don't think is that deep. I am the one making it that deep. I do not think that this scene is that deep, but it just always feels so, you know, whatever. But no, yeah. Yeah, definitely. They are definitely the duo within the trio, which is another reason why I think Piper is kind of struggling with Phoebe not being in the house because, she says earlier, everyone she grew up with is gone. Well, this is like it's just kind of sad to hear her say that because it's like, you know, my baby is going through. My girl is going through. Um, so just kind of bye Mark. See you later. Just kind of getting to the end of the episode though, we get them going to save Paige, and they get attacked by some vampires, by some vampires, and they notice that some of the bats are being vanquished, and it must be the source. It has to be the source. And so Cole comes in, and the bats were being vanquished. The vampires outside were being vanquished because Cole has vanquished the vampire queen. And then we watch as our boy contemplates whether he's about to kill Paige or not. And ultimately he does not. Paige hears that there's a new source, but she doesn't see his face. Um, at the end of the episode, at the end of the episode, we get the surprise of a lifetime. Our Phoebe is pregnant, and she passes out when she hears the news because that lady does not want to be pregnant. This is happening at the same time that Piper is revealing to Paige that she now thinks too that Cole may be evil. She thinks that there's more to it. And she kind of tries to throw out some things like, well, it's more than just that. It's not wanting to orb in and things like that. And it's like, Piper, girl, you been knowing that man was gone. So after hearing all of that, does anyone have any kind of thoughts? Like, what were your observations this episode with? I mean, like between what Cole has going on, Phoebe now literally fainting at the mere idea of being pregnant, and Piper and Paige being on the same footing that Cole is more than just a regular human, um, or at least has access to magic in some shape, form, or fashion. What were your thoughts on this episode? Did you have anything that you thought throughout it that you would like to share? Anything about the themes of the episode or the events or just anything? Because there was so much and it was just kind of jam packed. Leia has her hand up.
I was very happy when Piper finally was like, you are absolutely right, Paige. Because for the longest time, they had my girl sounding cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They had her looking crazy when
Mm-hmm.
she's literally right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like this lady knows exactly what's going on, and for some reason, she's just getting put on to the side. But again, it goes back to Piper not wanting to lose Phoebe, Piper not wanting to run her off by talking about Cole. And we're just really, I think, watching her struggle with trying to, and I think too, she's also trying to be like the big sister. She wants to be the one that's understanding. I think she's two steps away from being the cool mom. So it's very, very interesting watching this episode and seeing how I think she finally starts putting pieces together when she sees this how this is affecting Phoebe. And this episode, I'm not gonna lie to you, really made me think a lot about Centennial Charmed because I fear that I can absolutely see how that universe got to where it did. Because I've always kind of thought, like, how did they get from point A to point B? But now I can kind of see it. Like, if Prue or Paige wasn't there to sort of round out and tell them, girl, this is weird, this is strange, they would never address it. And they just be where they are. Absolutely. Now, I gave this episode a very high rating because I think drama wise, the show is really starting to heat up. And this is when the drama really gets to going. Like, baby, this is when we are cutting up because we're almost in the home stretch. We only have a couple of episodes left. And after this, I think we only have four. So it's like we're watching some stuff go down. And another quick highlight of this episode too is Cole's assistant. Listen. Baby, Cole's assistant is not playing any games. She does not like Phoebe, and she is making it very clear. Oh, and we actually find out a little bit about why she's acting the way she's acting in the next episode, but I like her. I think she's got spunk, and I like spunk. So for me, I think she hits the nail on the head. But I think that we're gonna go ahead and wrap up our discussion of this episode. We're gonna take about a 5 minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss our final episode of the day. We're off to see the wizard. So I will see y'all in about 5 minutes.